Everyone, welcome back. Today we are talking about Chanel. The Chanel fall collection is dropping soon. In about 2 weeks, some people got emails. I got an email that basically gave us a countdown for the collection. Now, I have seen the collection, but of course, we cannot show any pictures. We cannot talk about any numbers, anything like that. However, I worked for Chanel way back in the day. So I've been collecting Chanel products for the longest time, literally 30 years. So I have some very, very old makeup, which I don't use anymore, by the way, just so you all know. It's just used for comparison purposes. And then I have, the last 10 years, 20 years of makeup, and some of it I still do use. But I have a really good collection to compare to show you what you might be seeing. Again, this is not a statement directly on what's coming. It's just a, hey, this might be what Chanel is coming up with for their fall collections. Would you be interested in getting it? And do you already have it? So let's chat. Eyeshadows, lipsticks, liquid lips, powders. First thing I want to say about powders. Chanel has had a loose powder for quite some time. By the way, if you hear things in the background, that is people mowing their lawns. They have had different shades. So if you're interested in different shades of Chanel powder, I think this is a collection you might be very interested in. And I really enjoy the Chanel powder. This is the Natural Finish loose powder. So when this was created, it was created as a finishing powder. So we're going to use it that way today. I think it's a great powder. I have no idea what new powders, if they come out, will look like or feel like. I don't know if they'll be I'm going to guess they'll be finely milled and they'll be more of like a finishing powder, but you don't know. So just keep that in the back of your heads. The last several collections from Chanel have been focused on warmer shades. And just a guess that they might be going towards more cool shades in their upcoming collections. And that would possibly include face products. Now remember, there'll be a fall collection and a holiday collection. So all of these things could be at different times throughout the year. So what I'm going to use today on my cheeks is a Tweed blush, which I still don't know if Tweed blushes are ever coming back to the United States, but this is Tweed Pink. And I'm using this because I think, this is a total guess on my part, that there may be some pinker shades in the collections coming out for face, whether that's, the fall collection or possibly holiday collection. And I think that if they do that, will be a very welcome addition to the recent collections by Chanel, because, a lot of the oversized palettes that they've had have been warmer, and some of them have been great. I've loved a lot of the shades, but I think a lot of people would welcome a change to something a little more romantic, a little more demure in the face products. We're putting on, the Tweed is a very light, a very illuminating shade, Tweed Pink. It's got a little bit of an undertone of cream to it. You can see that in the Tweed. And it's ethereal looking. Who knows what the fall collection will look like, but I would guess, again, that the shadows may be more focused on a lighter, an easier to use formulation so that you can build it, but it isn't so pigmented that you put it on and it looks sort of heavy. If you go back to some of the 80s and 90s collections from Chanel, you'll see there were some very, very pigmented quads, which I loved, and I'll actually show you one. And they were gorgeous, but the pigmentation was so deep that it's hard to actually use a light look for them. One collection is like the blurry collection, blurry green, blurry blue, gray. I did a video with the blurry blue not too long ago. I think it was the blue. And it's a beautiful quad, and all the collection is beautiful, but they are heavier shades. There really isn't a light shade in the bunch. And so they're harder to use for a lot of folks. I still love them, but they're not for everyone. This one is a really old one. It's called Mysterious. It's got, and the colors used to be on the back, Jade, Cider, Topaz, and Golden. And I show you this because this is something that Chanel hasn't done in a while, in the sense that there's very different shades in here. There's a green, there's a bronzy gold, there's a red, and there's, a regular gold. So, you know, maybe Chanel will do something that has more of an eclectic look in some of the quads. It's not something they've done. But you'll see for these pigments that these are, they're not light by any means, okay? These are very heavy pigments, which I don't think we'll see. I think they'll be more ethereal in the way that they look. So you can see how pigmented these are. I think, you know, what we're heading to, what I've seen in collections and where makeup is headed in general in 2025, 2026 is a lighter eye look, something that has buildability, not a word, but you know, kind of like a layers so that people can do a very ethereal, soft butterfly effect and then have something heavier. And I will say this, there is going to be 4 quads. Yeah, I don't think that's, you know, a shock to anyone. Hopefully Chanel will not take down my channel for saying that, but there'll be 4 quads. And, you know, what usually Chanel does is they have one that's like a very neutral, one that's sort of like, you know, a pinker version, a browner version, a more eclectic version. You know, that's generally what they do, like when they did the tweeds or when they did the gold. Oh my goodness, it'll come to me later. So this one is Tweed Pink, and you can see this is like the brown version. And so that's what I'm talking about. In this collection, there was Brunette Rose, which was this one, which was incredibly popular. And so, you know, if there was going to be a brown version, maybe it would be something like this because this was such a popular color story. And in fact, I have 2 of these. I have 2 of the Brunette Rose, and I'm going to use that one today, you know, just as a inspiration because I'm feeling very Chanel because the collection is coming soon. And, you know, I think what we're going to see is more of the formulation of the Delice palette. Now, this came out summer, last summer? Jeez, my brain, guys. I do apologize. I'm on HRT and trying to fix it, but brain fog is serious stuff. But this formulation was actually one of my favorites. If I can remember to link the looks that I did with this, I think you can see why I liked it so much. It is an eclectic grouping of shades, and when I first saw it, I was kind of like, meh. But it ended up being one of my favorites for the way that it looked on the eye. And I think this type of formulation is going to be the way that Chanel goes in the future. I think it's that kind of light, a little shimmery, maybe even a little duochrome, but not, you know, Chanel is never about being a heavy, well, I shouldn't say never. Generally, Chanel is not about being a heavy punk rock, sorry, I was thinking of Superman, over the top look. It's just not Chanel. If you're a Chanel person, there is a particular look that goes with that. All the brands are like that. Gucci has a particular look, Chanel has a particular look, you know, which is why people stay with the brands for a long time, if not forever. I've been a Chanel girl since I was a girl. So I like the aesthetic and it just, you know, it works for me. I'm sure there'll be mascaras. I'm sure there'll be liners. There are channels up that do have the information and you're welcome to check those out. They are not in the United States, so who knows if they'll actually have the same collections, but I will say that I have seen that Rouge Allure Pop Tops are coming in different shades, and I looked at the shade numbers, and the only thing that I will say is I noticed that the shade numbers, I couldn't make any correlation from the shade numbers for ones that I already have. Like, they're totally different than any of the shade numbers that I have. Does that mean anything? I don't know. So, just wanted to put that out there. This one is 211 in Subtle, which is one of my favorite shades from Chanel. And if it's still available and it wasn't limited edition, I will put it down below. So I'm going to put on the Brunette Rose, then we're going to put on some powder, and then at the end I want to show you something that I think might be inspirational for what's coming and might get you excited to purchase the collection in a couple of weeks. This truly is one of my favorite quads of all time. If you have Brunette Rose, pull it back out because it is absolutely gorgeous and looks good on practically everyone. So absolutely love it. So to finish up, the collection is dropping from Chanel, like I said, in about 2 weeks from when this goes up. I got very excited when I got the email. I love a large collection from Chanel. I am, as I've said, a Chanel lover. I worked for them way back in the day as a makeup artist. And, you know, it's just fun. For me, I love makeup. That's why I'm here. I love fashion. I love all of this. So it gets me excited when something big is going to happen in a brand like Chanel. But I do want to note, again, these are makeup products. They go bad. They're meant to be used. You probably have, you know, shades similar to whatever's going to come out. Although I will say, I could not find in my collection, and I have a relatively big collection for those of you who know, I could not find any exact matches for any of the things that are coming out. I could not find one that was exact. So that doesn't mean one doesn't exist. I just don't have it. So I'm going to take a little bit of the loose powder. I'm using a Chikuhodo KZ01, which is a powder brush, and just sweeping on lightest amount of powder. I do not use a lot of powder, and you know, but this powder is really excellent, and I would be excited to see any new powders that might come out from Chanel. On the last note, if the collection happens to be like the Tweed collection or the Gold Baroque collection, yes, I finally remembered the name, then there'll be some type of embossing. And Chanel has done embossing many times. And, you know, sometimes it's like there was the number 5 that had the number 5 and the perfume bottles on it, and it looks incredibly cool. And I am one of the people that will buy a collection based on embossing. So I am not making any judgments. I mean, I myself will absolutely do it. But just remember that the embossing, once you use the product, is gone. So to give you an example and maybe, you know, inspire all of us for the collection that's coming out soon, there was a collection that came out a long time ago. And this is, I honestly don't remember. Scene Particular. It is a collection that has a really gorgeous, like almost button-like embossing on it. And I have not been able to use it. I have not been able to bring myself to ruin the embossing on this particular quad, which is just silly. So eventually, and sometime before 2005 ends, I'm going to use this quad and I'm going to show you on camera. But this is the kind of work that I hope we see from Chanel. I'm not saying we will, who knows, but this type of embossing I absolutely love. I think it's unique and it adds, you know, an extra dimension to something that's gonna get our attention for collections. But just remember, whatever it is, if it is embossed, that will be gone the minute you use it. So try to just keep that in the back of your mind. Again, I'm not giving any advice whether that means you will or will not buy it, but you know, it will go away the minute you use it. So, you know, because it's makeup. But yeah, I'm very excited about the Chanel collection. The fact that they sent emails out with a countdown, I think indicates, hopefully, that this will be something, you know, new and different and a relatively big collection. And as soon as I have it, I will definitely rush to get videos up. Whatever's in it, I promise that I will pick up, if not the entire collection, most of it, so that you can all see. So I'd love to hear all of your thoughts. I'd love to hear if you're excited for the collection, if you knew that it was dropping relatively soon, if you got a notice about it, an email about it like I did, and I've heard from many others that you have. And yeah, and what are your favorite collections from Chanel that they've done either recently or, you know, a long time ago? I might even have them. You never know. So thanks so much for joining me today, guys. I really do appreciate it. I hope to see you in another video really soon. Bye.